What if everything you knew about love was actually a carefully constructed lie? Amara thought she understood love. She thought she knew what it looked like, what it felt like, what it was supposed to cost. But understanding something and surviving it are two very different things. And at 25 years old, sitting alone in her dimly lit apartment on a Friday night with nothing but the cold glow of her phone screen and half-eaten Chinese takeout for company, Amara was beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, she'd been wrong about everything. The dating app notification buzzed. Another potential match, another face-promising connection. She swiped left without really looking, then left again, and again. Because here's the thing about Amara that nobody knew. Not her co-workers at the small creative agency where she designed logos and buried her self-doubt. Not the casual friends she kept at arm's length. Not even herself most days. She wasn't looking for love. She was looking for familiarity. And familiarity, for Amara, had teeth. 6 months. That's how long it had been since Terence sent that final text. I don't think this is working. Take care. 4 years of relationship history reduced to 2 sentences and a digital shrug. No explanation. No closure. Just the kind of casual cruelty that Amara had mistaken for maturity, because at least he wasn't yelling, right? At least he wasn't throwing things or accusing her of betrayal or making her feel crazy. He was just absent, emotionally unavailable, a ghost who occasionally materialized long enough to make her feel needy for wanting basic affection. But even that absence felt like something. It felt like the love she'd always known. Because love, in Amara's world, had always come with conditions. It had always required payment, and the currency was always pain. She learned this early, in a childhood home that looked perfect from the outside. Her father, Richard, was the kind of man people admired at dinner parties. Successful businessman, sharp suit, firm handshake. But at home, behind closed doors where reputations didn't matter and witnesses didn't exist, Richard's love came with an invoice. "I'm only hard on you because I love you and want you to be perfect," he'd say, his voice steady as he dismantled her self-worth piece by carefully calculated piece. Report card with all A's and 1 B+, not good enough. School play where she landed the lead role. Someone else would have done it better. New dress for the 8th grade dance? Are you sure you want to wear that? It makes you look bigger. And then, just when the weight of his disappointment became unbearable, he'd pivot. Expensive gifts, special outings. "You're my special girl," he'd whisper, and young Amara would feel her heart swell with desperate relief because this was love, wasn't it? This push and pull, this earning and losing and earning again. This was what it meant to matter to someone. Her mother, Linda, taught her a different lesson but the same curriculum. Linda's love was quieter, wrapped in guilt and tied with obligation. "I sacrificed everything for you." She'd sigh, the words heavy as stones. "After all I've done, this is how you treat me." Every request became a burden. Every need became evidence of Amara's selfishness. And when Amara tried to talk about her father's cruelty, Linda would smooth it over like wrinkles in expensive fabric. "Your father only acts this way because he cares. All families are like this. You're lucky to have a father who pushes you to be better." So Amara learned to walk on eggshells. She learned that love meant earning. She learned that affection was a reward for good behavior, and that pain was just proof someone cared enough to correct you. She learned that her needs were too much, that her feelings were dramatic, that real love always hurt at least a little. And she carried these lessons like sacred texts into every relationship that followed. Marcus was 18-year-old Amara's first love, if you could call it that. Charismatic, intense, the kind of guy who pursued her like she was the only person in the world until the moment she was his, and then the pursuit turned into possession. He loved her so much, he couldn't stand the thought of her talking to other guys. He loved her so much he needed to know where she was every minute. He loved her so much that when she wore something he didn't approve of, when she laughed too loud at someone else's joke, when she existed in ways that didn't center him, his love would explode into rage and then, inevitably, apology. Grand gestures, tearful promises. "I only get like this because I love you so much. "You make me crazy." And Amara stayed. Through 3 years and 7 breakups and 7 reconciliations, she stayed because this felt right. This chaos, this volatility, this constant vigilance, this was the love she recognized. When her friends expressed concern, she defended him with the same words her mother had used. "You don't understand. He's just passionate. He loves me." Until he didn't. Until he cheated. Until he left her for someone else, with the same casual cruelty her father had shown when she'd failed to meet his standards. And Amara was devastated not just by the loss, but by the familiar shape of it. After a year alone, a year of trying to fill the void with work and surface-level friendships and the pretense of healing, Amara met Terence. He seemed different, calmer, more mature. No explosive outbursts, no jealous accusations, no grand romantic gestures that felt like apologies for cruelty. Just distance. A careful, calculated distance that Amara mistook for emotional intelligence. Terence never yelled, but he also never really showed up. He withheld affection, like a parent withholding allowance, punishment for infractions Amara could never quite identify. Plans made and casually cancelled. Texts left unread for days. Warmth offered only when she was about to walk away, just enough to keep her hoping, trying, earning. For 2 years, Amara auditioned for the role of someone worthy of consistent love. And for 2 years, Terence reminded her through his absence that she was asking for too much. Until that final text. "Until I don't think this is working. Take care." Now, here she was. 25 years old and fluent in the language of pain disguised as love. Here she was, scrolling through dating profiles and feeling nothing when men were kind and everything when they seemed emotionally unavailable. Here she was, so convinced that real love required suffering that safety felt like a red flag. The loneliness was getting worse, though. It had a weight to it now, a presence that filled her apartment like smoke. So Amara did what people do when they can't fix themselves. She looked for something else to fix. She researched getting a dog, told herself it was practical, companionship without complication, something to care for that couldn't reject her, couldn't withhold love, couldn't make her feel like she was too much and not enough all at once. She found a local animal clinic online, made a plan to visit on Saturday, cancelled the plan twice in her head, before finally, on Saturday morning, forcing herself out the door because at least looking wouldn't hurt, right? The clinic smelled like antiseptic and hope. The receptionist, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile that immediately made Amara suspicious, directed her to someone who could help with adoptions. "Levi handles all of that. He's just finishing up with a patient, but he'll be right out." And then, there he was. Levi, 27 years old, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile, walking toward her with a small terrier in his arms, talking to the dog in a voice so gentle it made something in Amara's chest tighten. He looked up, saw her, and his smile widened in a way that seemed genuine, which meant Amara immediately started cataloguing what might be wrong with him. "Hi, you must be here about adoptions. I'm Levi." He set the terrier down carefully, washed his hands and extended one toward her. His handshake was warm, steady, not trying to prove anything. "Amara," she managed. "So, you're looking to adopt?" His eyes held real interest, like her answer actually mattered. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while." The lie came easily. It had been 3 days. "That's great. Dogs are wonderful companions. Have you had one before?" "No. I'm honestly not sure I'm ready, but I don't know. I thought it might help." Levi's expression shifted, became more attentive. "Help with what?" The question was so direct, so genuinely curious, that Amara found herself answering honestly. "Oh, just loneliness, I guess." And this is where Levi should have seen an easy sale. This is where he should have walked her toward the kennels, pointed out available dogs, closed the deal. But instead, he did something Amara had never experienced in her entire 25 years of conditional love and transactional affection. He cared more about her well-being than making her happy in the moment. "That's completely valid," he said, his voice carrying no judgment, no pity, just acknowledgement. "But I want to make sure you're adopting for the right reasons. Dogs are a big commitment. They need consistency, patience, and time. If you're going through something difficult, sometimes adding a responsibility can make things harder instead of better." Amara felt herself bristle defensively. "I know that—" "I'm not doubting you," Levi said quickly, his tone still gentle. "I just want to make sure you're in a place where you can give a dog what it needs. And I want to make sure this is what you need too." There was something in his eyes, something Amara couldn't quite name because she'd never seen it directed at her before. It looked almost like respect, like he saw her as a person capable of making good decisions, not a problem to be managed or a project to be fixed. "So, you don't think I should adopt?" The question came out smaller than she intended. "I didn't say that." Levi's smile was patient. "I think you should take some time to think about it. Maybe volunteer at a shelter first. Spend time with dogs, see how it feels. If after a few weeks you still want to adopt, come back and we'll find the perfect match for you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. "I volunteer at a shelter across town. No pressure, but if you want to try it out, I can connect you with the coordinator." Amara took the card, her fingers brushing his briefly. "Okay, that actually makes sense. Great." His smile reached his eyes. "I'm Levi, by the way, but I guess I already said that." "Amara," she repeated, and found herself almost smiling back. As she walked out of the clinic into the bright Saturday afternoon, card clutched in her hand, Amara felt something she couldn't quite identify. Not the desperate relief of earning approval, not the anxious vigilance of avoiding anger, not the familiar ache of feeling like she'd disappointed someone. Just something else, something quiet, something that felt almost like being seen. She looked down at the card. Levi's name, his number, an invitation without pressure, kindness without conditions. And for the first time in her life, Amara found herself wondering a question she'd never thought to ask. What if love wasn't supposed to hurt at all? Amara took his advice, and that decision would change everything. The following Saturday, she found herself standing outside the Riverside Animal Shelter, card still in her wallet, heart hammering against her ribs for reasons she couldn't quite name. It was just volunteering, just spending time with dogs. Nothing complicated. Nothing that required vulnerability or trust or any of the things Amara had spent her entire life learning to ration like scarce resources. Except when she walked through those doors, Levi was already there, kneeling beside a golden retriever with matted fur and sad eyes, speaking to it in that same gentle voice that had unsettled her a week ago. And Amara realized with sudden, uncomfortable clarity that she hadn't come here for the dogs at all. She'd come to understand why his kindness felt like a threat. "Amara." Levi looked up, surprised but genuinely pleased, and that pleasure didn't come with conditions attached, didn't require her to be smaller or quieter or different than she was. And that fact alone made Amara want to turn around and leave. "You came. I'm so glad." Over the next few weeks, they kept running into each other. Saturdays became routine. Amara would arrive at the shelter, tell herself she was there for the animals, and somehow always end up working alongside Levi. He'd show her how to approach nervous dogs, how to read their body language, how to build trust with creatures who'd learned that human hands could hurt as easily as they could comfort. And with every lesson, Amara felt something inside her begin to shift, like tectonic plates moving beneath the surface of her carefully constructed world. But she wasn't ready to let them shift. Not yet. Because if everything she believed about love was wrong, then what did that make her? What did that make every relationship she'd endured, every hurt she'd accepted, every cruel word she'd convinced herself was care? So Amara did what people do when they're terrified of hope. She tested it. She tested Levi's kindness, like a scientist probing for weaknesses, waiting for the inevitable moment when the mask would slip and she'd see the familiar face of conditional love beneath. Test number 1 came on their third Saturday together. They'd made loose plans to grab coffee after volunteering. Nothing formal, just a casual suggestion that Amara had agreed to before her anxiety could invent excuses. But as Saturday approached, old patterns kicked in like muscle memory. She sent him a text 2 hours before they were supposed to meet. Something came up. Can't make it. Sorry. No explanation. No attempt to reschedule. Just the kind of flaky last-minute cancellation that had always triggered Marcus's rage or Terence's cold withdrawal. She watched her phone like it was a bomb about to detonate, waited for the anger, the guilt trip, the punishment. Minutes ticked by. 5, 10, 15. And then, no problem. Hope everything's okay. See you next weekend? That was it. No interrogation about what had come up. No passive-aggressive jabs about wasting his time. No emotional withdrawal designed to make her grovel. Just understanding. Easy, uncomplicated understanding. And somehow that felt worse than anger, because Amara didn't know what to do with understanding. She didn't have a script for it. So she put her phone down, and felt something inside her chest that might have been relief, but felt more like vertigo. Like the ground beneath her feet had just revealed itself to be less solid than she'd thought. Test number 2 was quieter but more deliberate. The following Saturday, Amara showed up at the shelter and treated Levi with cool distance. Polite, but remote. Answering his friendly questions with one-word responses. Avoiding eye contact. Creating space where warmth had been growing. It was a pattern she'd learned from Terence, this strategic withdrawal, and she deployed it now like a weapon, waiting to see if Levi would do what men always did, either chase her with desperate attention or match her coldness with his own. He did neither. He simply gave her space, worked quietly alongside her, didn't demand explanations or manufacture drama. When she was ready to talk, he was there. When she wasn't, he respected that boundary without making her feel guilty for having it. And by the end of the day, Amara felt exhausted from the effort of pushing away someone who refused to play the games she'd been taught were the rules of engagement. "You okay?" Levi asked as they were leaving, his tone genuinely curious, not accusatory. "Yeah," Amara said, and hated how small her voice sounded. "Just a weird week." "I get that," Levi said. "I'm here if you want to talk, and I'm here if you don't. Whatever you need, whatever you need." Not whatever he needed from her. Not whatever performance would earn his approval, whatever she needed. The concept was so foreign that Amara almost asked him to repeat it, to clarify, to explain the catch she knew must be hidden somewhere in those words. But she didn't. She just nodded and walked to her car and sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes, trying to figure out why kindness felt so much more dangerous than cruelty ever had. Test number 3 was the most telling. On their 6th Saturday together, Amara arrived at the shelter and immediately started complaining. About work, about her apartment, about the weather, about everything and nothing, a stream of negativity designed to be exhausting and off-putting. Marcus would have called her dramatic. Terence would have gone silent, punishing her with his absence. Her father would have told her to stop being so negative, that she was bringing everyone down with her bad attitude. Levi listened, really listened, and when she finally ran out of complaints, he said, "That sounds really frustrating. Want to talk about what's really bothering you?" The question was so gentle, so perceptive, that Amara felt tears prick at her eyes. "I don't know," she admitted. "That's okay too," Levi said, and then he smiled. "Come on. There's someone I want you to meet." He led her to a kennel in the back corner of the shelter, the quiet section where they kept the dogs who needed extra care. Inside was a medium-sized mixed breed with tan fur and eyes that held the kind of sadness Amara recognized, because she saw it in her own mirror every morning. The dog was pressed against the back wall, trembling. "This is Charlie," Levi said softly. "He came in 3 days ago. Someone found him abandoned in a park. He's terrified of people. Won't eat if anyone's watching, flinches at loud noises. Classic trauma case." Amara knelt slowly in front of the kennel, and Charlie's eyes met hers. In that moment, something passed between them, a recognition that transcended species. This dog knew what it was like to learn that love could hurt. This dog had been taught that trust was dangerous. This dog was surviving the only way it knew how, by keeping everyone at a distance. "Can I work with him?" Amara heard herself ask. "I was hoping you'd say that." Levi said. And so began a parallel journey that Amara didn't yet understand was her own. Every Saturday, she worked with Charlie. Patient, consistent, never forcing contact, never demanding trust, just showing up and proving through action that she was safe. Levi taught her techniques, how to approach slowly, how to speak softly, how to let Charlie set the pace, how to celebrate small victories like eating in her presence or allowing her to sit nearby without cowering. The key with trauma, Levi explained one afternoon as they watched Charlie slowly, cautiously eat from a bowl while Amara sat 5 feet away, is consistency. These dogs have learned that humans are unpredictable and dangerous. The only way to unteach that is to be boringly, reliably safe, over and over again, until their nervous system finally believes it. Amara heard the words, but didn't recognize them as a mirror being held up to her own life. Not yet. Because recognizing would require admitting, and admitting would require changing, and changing would mean acknowledging that every relationship she'd survived had taught her the wrong lessons about love. But while she worked with Charlie, something else was happening. The walls she'd built around her heart were developing cracks, and Levi, with his steady kindness and patient presence, was light seeping through those cracks whether Amara was ready for it or not. They started getting coffee after volunteering. Then coffee turned into lunch. Then lunch turned into long walks through the park with shelter dogs who needed socialization. Then walks turned into conversations that stretched for hours, covering everything from childhood dreams to favorite books to the kind of people they wanted to become. And through it all, Levi remained exactly who he'd been from the first moment, kind, present, genuinely interested in knowing her. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. One evening, 6 weeks after they'd met, they were sitting on a bench in the park watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. A golden retriever named Max lounged at their feet, tongue lolling happily. The moment felt peaceful, safe, and Amara, who'd spent her entire life equating safety with boredom, felt her anxiety spike. "Can I ask you something?" The words came out before she could stop them. "Of course," Levi said, turning to look at her with those warm brown eyes that never seemed to judge, only observe. "Why are you single?" The question was rude, invasive, designed to create distance. You're kind and patient and good with animals, and people actually like you. So what's wrong with you?" Levi laughed, but it wasn't a bitter sound. "My ex-girlfriend, Hannah, broke up with me about a year ago. She said I was too nice, too boring. Like a golden retriever," he gestured to Max. "Her words, not mine." "That's a terrible reason to break up with someone," Amara said, feeling a surge of anger on his behalf that surprised her with its intensity. "Maybe," Levi said thoughtfully, "but I understood what she meant. She wanted excitement, drama, the kind of relationship that felt like a roller coaster, and I'm just not that person. I'd rather have something stable and real than something intense and toxic. I think—" Amara hesitated, the words fighting to stay locked behind her teeth. "I think I've been drawn to drama my whole life. I thought that's what love was supposed to feel like." Levi's expression grew serious. "What do you mean?" And then, like a dam breaking, Amara told him everything. About Richard and his cruel criticism disguised as care. About Linda and her guilt manipulation. About Marcus and his jealous rage, followed by tearful apologies. About Terence and his cold withholding that made her feel like she was always asking for too much. About learning that love meant pain, that affection had to be earned, that her needs were burdens and her feelings were too much. Levi listened without interrupting, didn't try to fix or minimize or explain away her experiences, just listened with his full attention, his expression growing more pained with every revelation. When she finally fell silent, tears streaming down her face, Levi reached over and gently took her hand. His touch was warm, solid, safe. "Amara," he said quietly, "that's not love, that's trauma." The words hit like lightning. Simple, true, undeniable. And Amara felt something inside her shatter, some carefully constructed defense that had been holding her together for 25 years. "But what if I don't know how to love any other way?" Her voice broke. What if I've been broken so thoroughly that kindness feels boring to me? What if healthy feels wrong? What if I ruin this because I'm so used to chaos that peace feels like waiting for the other shoe to drop? Then we figure it out together, Levi said, his thumb tracing gentle circles on the back of her hand. But I need you to know something, and I need you to really hear it. You don't have to earn my care. You don't have to be perfect or smaller or different than you are you. Don't have to walk on eggshells or manage my emotions or prove that you deserve basic kindness. I'm here because I want to be, not because you've convinced me to stay. I don't know if I believe that, Amara whispered. That's okay, Levi said, and his smile was sad but genuine. I'll show you until you do. They started dating officially after that conversation, or at least, that's what they called it. But for Amara, it felt more like stepping onto a tightrope without a net, every moment balanced between hope and terror. She kept waiting for Levi to reveal himself, to show the hidden agenda, to prove that his kindness was just a different kind of manipulation. But weeks turned into months, and he remained exactly who he'd always been. When she made mistakes, showed up late, said something awkward, spilled wine on his shirt during dinner, he laughed them off. When she expressed needs, wanting alone time, needing reassurance, asking him to communicate more clearly, he listened and adjusted without resentment. When she had bad days and was short-tempered or withdrawn, he gave her space without punishing her with silence. It should have been a relief. Instead, it was disorienting. Amara felt like she was learning a new language at 25, trying to communicate in a dialect where love didn't require translation, where care was given freely instead of rationed like resources during a drought. But old programming dies hard, and Amara's programming had been written in childhood and reinforced through every relationship that followed. The cracks started showing 3 months into their relationship, small things at first. Amara would manufacture small arguments, testing to see if Levi would escalate. He wouldn't. He'd stay calm, communicate clearly, work toward resolution instead of victory. And somehow, that made Amara angrier because she didn't know how to fight with someone who wasn't trying to hurt her. Then came the lunch with her co-workers. Casual conversation over salads and coffee. Someone asked about Levi, and Amara found herself describing him with words that should have sounded positive but came out flat. Nice, kind, stable, but is there spark? Her co-worker Maya asked, eyes gleaming with the kind of curiosity that comes from watching too many romantic dramas. Like, does he make your heart race? Is there passion? Amara opened her mouth to say yes, but hesitated. Her heart didn't race with Levi. Not because she didn't care about him, but because being with him didn't trigger her nervous system into fight or flight mode. There was no walking on eggshells, no constant vigilance, no anxiety about what mood she'd find him in. He's just really steady, Amara said finally. Maya wrinkled her nose. Steady sounds boring. And that word, boring, planted itself in Amara's mind like a seed. By the time she left work that day, it had taken root. Was Levi boring? Or had she simply been conditioned to equate chaos with passion? Was stability actually a red flag, or had trauma taught her that anything that didn't hurt couldn't be real? She didn't know, and not knowing made everything worse. That night, Levi came over with takeout and a smile, asking about her day with genuine interest. And Amara felt herself pulling away, creating distance, waiting for him to notice and react. But he didn't push, didn't demand explanations, just accepted her mood and gave her space and cleaned up the kitchen before leaving, with a gentle kiss on her forehead and a call me if you need anything. After he left, Amara sat on her couch and stared at her phone. Scrolled through old text messages from Terence, rereading his casual cruelties, feeling the familiar ache of trying to decode his coldness. Then she scrolled to her messages with Levi. Clear communication, consistent affection, no games, no hidden meanings. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it and felt her stomach drop. Hey, been thinking about you. Coffee, Terence. She should have deleted it. Blocked the number. Moved on. But instead, Amara stared at those words for 20 minutes, feeling something that should have been discussed, but felt more like the pull of an addiction. Terence, who had made her feel small and needy and never enough. Terence, who had withheld affection like punishment. Terence, whose attention she'd spent 2 years trying to earn. His casual cruelty felt like home, and that realization should have terrified her. Instead, it just made her tired. She didn't respond to the text. But she didn't delete it either. Just left it there, unanswered, a digital representation of the choice she knew she'd eventually have to make. Keep trying to unlearn everything she'd been taught about love, or retreat into the familiar pain that at least made sense. Meanwhile, Charlie was making progress. Slow but steady, the dog was learning to trust. He'd eat with Amara in the kennel now, would approach her for gentle pets, had even wagged his tail once when she arrived at the shelter. Levi watched these small victories with pride. "You're really good with him," he said one Saturday afternoon. "It takes patience to help someone heal from trauma. A lot of people give up." "I'm not giving up on him," Amara said firmly. "I know," Levi said, and his smile was knowing in a way that made Amara wonder if he could see the parallel she still refused to acknowledge. "That's one of the things I love about you. Love." He'd said love. Casual, easy, like it was just a fact instead of a declaration. And Amara felt panic rise in her throat, because love was supposed to be harder than this, wasn't it? Love was supposed to require suffering and sacrifice and constant proof that you were worthy of it. "Levi," she started, but he cut her off gently. "You don't have to say it back. I'm not expecting anything. I just wanted you to know." And that, somehow, was worse. Because if he wasn't expecting anything, how could she earn his love? How could she prove she deserved it? How could she control a variable that didn't seem to require her performance? The unraveling happened slowly, then all at once, the way trauma responses tend to work. Amara started picking small fights, criticizing minor things, creating problems where none existed, testing, always testing, waiting for Levi to show his true colors, to prove that his kindness was just a long game, a manipulation tactic designed to make the eventual cruelty cut deeper. But Levi didn't take the bait. He'd listen to her complaints, address them calmly, communicate his own feelings without attacking hers. And his refusal to engage in the toxic patterns she knew how to navigate made Amara feel like she was losing her mind. "Why won't you just fight with me?" She exploded one evening after manufacturing an argument about him being 5 minutes late to dinner. Levi looked genuinely confused. "Why would I fight with you? You're upset. I want to understand why, not win some battle." "That's not how relationships work," Amara said, and heard her mother's voice in her own words. "That's not how healthy relationships work," Levi corrected gently. "Amara, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to play games or keep score or make you feel small. I just want to understand you and love you and build something real with you. But it doesn't feel real." The words tore out of her. "It feels too easy. It feels like you're going to wake up one day and realize I'm not worth this effort and leave just like everyone else." "Then that's your trauma talking," Levi said quietly, "not reality." "But I can't fight your trauma for you, Amara. I can be patient and consistent and prove through my actions that I'm safe. But at some point, you have to decide whether you're going to believe me or keep waiting for me to hurt you." The conversation ended there. Amara left, drove home, sat in her apartment surrounded by silence, and felt the weight of an impossible choice pressing down on her chest. The final straw came 2 weeks later. It was Amara's birthday. She'd mentioned it once in passing, not making a big deal of it because birthdays in her childhood had been performances, elaborate displays orchestrated by her father to show the world what a good parent he was, while privately criticizing her for not being grateful enough, for not smiling wide enough, for existing in a way that required celebration. She didn't expect Levi to remember. Didn't expect anything really, because that was safer than hope. But when she opened her door that evening, Levi was standing there with a small, wrapped gift and that warm smile she still didn't know what to do with. "Happy birthday," he said. They went to her favorite restaurant, the one she'd mentioned once 3 weeks ago and then forgotten about. But Levi had remembered, had made reservations, had learned what she liked without her having to perform gratitude or manage his expectations. After dinner, he handed her the gift. "I hope this is okay. I wasn't sure, but I thought you might like it." Inside was a high-quality sketchbook and a set of professional design pencils. Nothing extravagant, nothing designed to overwhelm or obligate. Just a thoughtful gift that showed he paid attention to who she was and what she loved. Inside the sketchbook he'd written a note, "To Amara, your creativity is a gift to the world. Don't let fear dim your light. L." And something inside Amara snapped, not in a good way, in a desperate, terrified way, because this was too kind, too thoughtful, too genuine. This was the kind of love she'd spent her entire life learning she didn't deserve, and having it offered so freely felt like a trap, like a setup for inevitable disappointment. "Why are you doing this?" The question came out sharp, accusatory. "What do you want from me?" Levi's smile faded, confusion replacing it. "I don't want anything except to celebrate you. It's your birthday." "That's not real," Amara said, her voice rising. "Nobody is just nice without wanting something. Nobody gives without expecting something back. What's the catch, Levi? What am I going to have to pay for this later?" "There's no catch," Levi said, and she could hear the hurt creeping into his voice. "Amara, I care about you. I wanted to do something nice for your birthday. That's all." "That's not all," she insisted, feeling hysteria building in her chest. "It's never just that. There's always something else. Always some expectation or condition or price I don't see yet. Maybe with other people," Levi said carefully, "but not with me." And that's when Amara said the thing she knew she couldn't take back, the thing designed to hurt him, to push him away, to prove her worst beliefs about herself. "Maybe my ex was right. Maybe you're too nice. Maybe this is boring. Maybe I need someone who actually challenges me instead of just—" She gestured helplessly. "This—" The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Amara watched the hurt flash across Levi's face, watched him process her cruelty, watched him make a decision. "I understand you're scared," he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. "I understand you're healing from terrible things that taught you love was supposed to hurt. But Amara, I care about you deeply. I care about you so much that I can't let you hurt me to prove that I will." He stood up, started gathering his jacket. "I'm not angry with you. I'm not going to punish you or give you the silent treatment or play games, but I also can't keep showing up if you're going to keep pushing me away, just to prove that everyone leaves. When you're ready to let someone love you without pain, I'm here. But I can't be your emotional punching bag while you figure that out." And then Levi did something nobody had ever done in Amara's entire life. He set a boundary, kindly, clearly, without cruelty but without backing down. He left, and Amara sat alone in her apartment, the birthday gift on the table in front of her, and realized with devastating clarity that she'd just done to herself exactly what she'd been terrified Levi would do to her. She'd proven her own worst beliefs right. She'd sabotaged the first healthy relationship she'd ever had. She'd pushed away genuine love because it didn't match the template trauma had given her. She opened the sketchbook again, read his words. "Don't let fear dim your light." But she had. She'd let fear drive the car. And now she was sitting in the wreckage, finally understanding what she'd been too terrified to see all along. The question was, had she realized it too late? Had she destroyed the one real thing she'd ever had? Or could someone who'd only known pain finally learn what love was supposed to feel like? 3 days passed. 72 hours of Amara sitting in the wreckage of her own making, staring at that sketchbook, reading those words until they blurred. Don't let fear dim your light. But fear had done more than dim her light. Fear had made her into exactly what she'd been terrified of becoming, someone who hurt people who loved her, someone who pushed away kindness because it didn't come wrapped in familiar cruelty, someone who'd rather be alone than risk believing she deserved gentleness. On the 4th day, Amara did something she'd tried once before and abandoned. She called a therapist, not just any therapist, but Dr. Elena Martinez, a trauma-informed specialist whose number Levi had gently suggested months ago during one of their long conversations. Back then, Amara had bristled at the suggestion, heard it as criticism, as evidence that she was broken beyond repair. Now, sitting in her apartment with Levi's gift on the table and his absence filling every room, she heard it differently. She heard it as what it had always been, care. The first session was brutal. Dr. Martinez didn't offer platitudes or quick fixes. She asked questions that peeled back layers Amara had spent 25 years constructing. When did you first learn that love was supposed to hurt? And Amara found herself talking about her father, about being 8 years old and bringing home that report card, about learning that perfection -1 became proof of failure, about understanding that love was something you earned through achievement and lost through imperfection. You weren't learning about love, Dr. Martinez said gently. You were learning survival, and those skills kept you safe in an unsafe environment. But Amara, you're not in that environment anymore. The question is, are you ready to learn what love actually looks like? Was she? Amara didn't know, but she kept going back, week after week, session after session, unpacking the blueprint that had been written in childhood and reinforced through Marcus's volatility and Terence's coldness, learning new vocabulary, attachment patterns, trauma responses, emotional regulation, understanding that her nervous system had been trained to recognize danger as home and safety as threat. Meanwhile, she kept volunteering at the shelter, even though she hadn't seen Levi in 2 weeks, even though the absence of him felt like a physical wound, because Charlie was still there, still healing, still needing consistency and patience and proof that not all humans would hurt him. And in caring for this traumatized dog, Amara began to understand something profound. She could give Charlie what she'd never received herself, which meant, maybe, just maybe, she could learn to receive it too. One Saturday morning, 3 weeks after the birthday disaster, Amara arrived at the shelter early. She went straight to Charlie's kennel, expecting to find him in his usual spot pressed against the back wall. But he wasn't there. The kennel was empty. Panic seized her chest. Had something happened? Had he been moved? He got adopted yesterday. Amara spun around. One of the other volunteers, Sarah, stood behind her with a gentle smile. A family came in. They have experience with trauma cases. Charlie took to them immediately. It was actually kind of beautiful. Amara should have felt happy. This was the goal, after all, helping dogs find forever homes. But instead, she felt gutted. She'd spent weeks building trust with Charlie, watching him slowly learn that he was safe, that he was loved, that he deserved gentle hands and patient voices. And now he was gone, and she hadn't even gotten to say goodbye. She walked outside, needing air, and found herself on the bench behind the shelter, the one where she and Levi used to sit and talk for hours. And that's when the tears came, not just for Charlie, but for everything, for the childhood she'd survived instead of lived, for the relationships that had taught her all the wrong lessons, for the good man she'd pushed away because kindness felt more dangerous than cruelty. Amara. She knew that voice, knew it the way you know your own heartbeat. She looked up through tears and there was Levi, volunteer shirt on, expression caught between surprise and concern. What are you doing here? The question came out broken. I volunteer here, he said gently. Same as always. I just changed my schedule to earlier shifts, to avoid her. He didn't say it, but Amara heard it anyway. And she deserved that. Deserved his boundaries, his self-protection, his decision to choose his own well-being over her trauma. Charlie got adopted, she said, because it was easier than saying all the other things crowding her throat. I know, Levi said. I was here when it happened. He was ready. I wasn't ready, Amara whispered. Levi sat down on the bench, leaving careful space between them. It's okay to be sad even when something good happens. Charlie found a home. But you lost someone you'd connected with. Both things can be true. It was such a Levi thing to say, validating her feelings without trying to fix them, allowing complexity instead of demanding she choose one emotion. And Amara realized with sudden, overwhelming clarity how much she'd missed this. Missed him. Missed the safety of being seen without being judged. I'm in therapy, she said, the words tumbling out. Real therapy this time. Twice a week with a trauma specialist. I'm working on everything. My childhood, my relationships, why I sabotage good things, why I only recognize love when it hurts. Levi's expression softened. That's good, Amara. I'm really proud of you. I'm not doing it to win you back, she said quickly, needing him to understand. I mean, I want you back. God, I want that so much. But I'm doing this for me, because I deserve better than what I've been accepting. Because I deserve to understand that kindness isn't a trap. You do deserve better, Levi said quietly. You've always deserved better. They sat in silence for a moment, the morning sun warm on their faces, the sounds of dogs barking in the distance filling the space where words should be. Amara wanted to reach for his hand but didn't, wanted to close the distance between them but couldn't. Because this wasn't about what she wanted anymore. It was about what was healthy, what was real. I set boundaries with my parents, Amara said, needing to tell him, needing him to know she was trying. I met with them and told them how their treatment affected me. My dad got defensive. My mom tried the guilt trip, and I left, just walked away. Told them I loved them, but I needed space to heal. How did that feel? Levi asked. Terrifying, Amara admitted, but also kind of powerful, like I was finally choosing myself. That's huge, Levi said, and the pride in his voice made Amara's chest ache. I'm sorry, she said, the words she'd been holding finally breaking free. For what I said on my birthday, for pushing you away, for testing you constantly like you were going to hurt me. You were right, I was so convinced everyone leaves that. I was trying to control when and how you'd go. But Levi, you were the first person who ever showed me what real love looks like, and I was too scared to receive it. I know, Levi said simply, and I understand why. Your whole life taught you that love and pain were the same thing, unlearning that is hard work. Are you... Amara's voice broke. Are you seeing anyone? Levi was quiet for a long moment. I went on a date a couple weeks ago. She was nice, but I couldn't stop thinking about you. Hope fluttered in Amara's chest, fragile and new. Really? Really, Levi said. But Amara, I meant what I said that night. I can't be with someone who's going to punish me for being kind. I can't keep proving I'm safe while you keep testing whether I'll hurt you. That's not fair to either of us. I know, Amara said, and I'm not asking you to. I'm asking if maybe, when I'm further along in my healing, when I've done more work on myself, if we could try again, not pick up where we left off, but start fresh, build something real from a healthier place. Levi turned to look at her fully, those warm brown eyes searching her face. What if it's not exciting enough for you? What if healthy still feels boring? I used to think excitement meant chaos, Amara said, echoing words she'd said to her therapist just days before. But now I'm learning that real excitement is waking up without fear. Real passion is being seen and not criticized. Real love is building something that doesn't require constant repair because it's not constantly being broken. Levi smiled, soft and sad and hopeful all at once. That sounds like therapy talking. It is, Amara admitted. But it's also me finally understanding what you were trying to show me all along. You make me feel safe, Levi, and that's not boring. That's revolutionary. That's everything I never knew I needed. They sat together on that bench as the morning stretched into afternoon, talking about everything and nothing. About Amara's therapy breakthroughs and setbacks. About Levi's work at the clinic and his volunteer projects. About Charlie's adoption and the new dogs at the shelter who needed patient, consistent love. They didn't make promises or define what they were to each other. They just existed together in that moment. Two people who'd been hurt in different ways, learning what healing could look like. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Levi finally broke the comfortable silence. I'm not saying no to trying again, but I'm also not saying yes yet. I need to see that you're really committed to this work, that you're healing for you, not just to get me back. That's fair, Amara said, and meant it. I respect that boundary. But, Levi added, his expression softening, I'd like to be your friend while you figure things out, if that's okay with you. I'd like to be here, in whatever capacity is healthy for both of us. I'd like that too, Amara said. 6 months later, Amara stood in the shelter, helping a young couple navigate the adoption process for a nervous rescue dog. She watched them interact with the dog, saw their patience and gentleness, and felt proud to be guiding them through this choice. Beside her, Levi offered quiet suggestions, his presence steady and warm and safe. They weren't officially together yet, but they were something. They were friends who had dinner every week, who texted about their days, who volunteered together and talked about hard things and laughed about simple joys. They were two people learning that love didn't have to be complicated to be real, that healing wasn't linear, but it was possible, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was let yourself be loved gently. After the couple left with their new dog, Amara and Levi found themselves on their bench, the one that had become sacred space for vulnerability and truth. The sunset painted everything gold. "What are you thinking about?" Levi asked. "How different this feels," Amara said. "How peaceful. Different good or different bad?" "Different healing," Amara said, resting her head on his shoulder in a gesture that felt natural now, earned through months of rebuilding trust. "I didn't know love could be peaceful." "It's supposed to be," Levi said, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining like they'd done this 1,000 times before. And in that moment, Amara understood something she'd spent her entire life not knowing. Love wasn't supposed to hurt. It was supposed to heal. It wasn't supposed to diminish. It was supposed to grow. It wasn't supposed to be earned. It was supposed to be freely given and graciously received. She'd thought love meant pain, but Levi had shown her kindness, and in learning to accept that kindness, Amara had finally learned to love herself. "Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever pushed away someone good because you were so used to toxic relationships that healthy felt wrong? Have you had to unlearn what love meant and discover what it was supposed to be? Drop a comment below and share your story. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because next week we're diving into another story about love, healing, and the courage it takes to break generational patterns. Your story matters. Your healing matters. And you deserve love that feels like peace, not pain.